Now let's look a little more closely at the parameter page for the account holder by PTAO report. Let's begin by opening up the parameter collections page. For this demonstration, we're going to set all of the parameters as opposed to using a saved parameters list. First is the organization. The drop-down list allows you to select the appropriate value. Values available here are based on the org hierarchy and YAS values that you've been given. You can see here that we have the option of reporting at the university level. University level access is uncommon. Most users have access at the division, department, or org level. To make the proper choice, you'll want to be familiar with your department's org hierarchy. For this demonstration, we'll select Organization. Upon selecting this option, a list of the orgs that you have the ability to report on appears in the Value section. As mentioned earlier, this is based on the YAS access that you've been given. Here, we'll select an org, and then we'll move over to the Page Break section. Notice that the only option here is Organization. Page breaks would come into play when reporting at a higher level than Organization. For example, let's say I was given access to the chemistry department and wanted to run a report for the entire department. In the level area, I would select Department, and in the Value area, I would select FASCHM Chemistry G00660. The page break by area would show that I could page break or have a separate report for each subdepartment 1, subdepartment 2, or organization within chemistry, or I could select department and have a consolidated report for all organizations within chemistry. The next option is the project line. Looking at the drop-down list, you'll see the options available. If you select University/All Projects from the pull-down menu, All will appear in the Value column, and then in the page break area, you can see the option at which you can create a separate or consolidated report. If you select Project, for instance, you'll be prompted to select a project from a list or enter a valid project number in the Values section. The task and award lines function in a similar way to the org and project lines that we just completed. Note the options available under each drop-down list and make the appropriate selections in the level, value, and page break by sections. Next up is the Expenditure Selector. Note that the default is Major Parent Account, but there are other options, including the expenditure type level. Just a quick note here that if you have questions on the definitions of the various PTAO segments, you can check out the Chart of Accounts Handbook at www.yale.edu/COA, or you can check out the video Financial Systems Basics and COA, which is on the same page where you launched this video. If you have questions about how your department uses the PTAO segments, you can contact your business office. Next is the accounting period. Use the drop-down list to select a period to report on. The default is current open month, but you can go back and report on any period since fiscal year 1999. Note that if you select a period prior to the last closed month, the projection choice parameter that we'll cover shortly will not be available. Also, we'll see that commitments can be included as a projection choice. Commitments do not report accurately unless the current open month is selected. The next parameter is org type. The default is charging orgs only, and that's the one selected by most users. If you're reporting on a program, project, or score grant, then you may want to select one of the other options. Otherwise, just leave it as charging orgs only. Next is the grant budget type. Almost always, users will select grant budget. When making the selection, you'll then specify whether you want to report on an inception or installment basis, and select whether to summarize facilities and administration costs, also known as F&A, or not summarize F&A. Next is the General Appropriations, or GENAP, budget choice. MPO, which stands for Management Plan 0, is the most popular choice. It is the original YBT budget. University departments have the option of uploading a department plan, which is also available as a projection choice. More information on department plan can be obtained from the YBT website or your budget analyst. The next parameter is the Other Funds budget type. Choices are MPO, Department Plan, or Fund Balance. Selecting Fund Balance brings into the report the July 1st beginning balance for special program and other non-GA accounts. Next is the option to either summarize, not summarize, or do not include salaries on the report. Now let's talk about projection choice. You have a few choices. As mentioned earlier, if the accounting period you select is prior to the last closed month projection, choices here will not be available. Also, if you choose commitments as your projection choice, then you should select the current open month as the accounting period. Commitments is the default choice, and if your report includes salaries, you'll see the option to select either custom, labor, or POAP as the projection type. If you select budget, the projection type choices are department plan and MPO. If you select YBT as the projection choice, you can choose labor or non-labor, or you can select no projections. The next selector is whether to include non-operating income. Most times, you'll leave the default, which is to not include non-operating income. There are exceptions, such as if you want to see endowment principal on the report. Then, you would select to include non-operating income. The next area is asking you to choose the sections you'd like to include on the report. As mentioned earlier, the account holder report is actually a suite of reports. The summary with or without selected projections is basically an income statement which will show revenues, expenses, and revenues less expenses compared to the projection you've chosen. If the account that you've reported on has balance sheet accounts, those will be shown at the end of this section. You can select a section individually, select multiple sections with your control key and mouse, or select all sections using the checkbox. Here, we'll select all. The trend report is a 12-month trend by payee and by the expenditure type hierarchy choice, which you selected earlier. For information on prior month transactions and current month transactions, please review the guide on how to view invoice detail. You'll find a link to that in the reference area of the page where you launched this video. As the name implies, the account holder detail transaction section shows the transaction details. Two options are available. The current open month and the last closed month are two of the choices. On the report, you can see the transaction date, description, and amount. Also, there are columns for the initiator, preparer, and authorizer. If there is a link displayed in the Click Link for Invoice Image column, you can click it and view the image for the transaction. More information on this feature can also be found in the quick guide titled Invoice Drill Down Functionality on Account Holder Detailed Transaction Report in the Accounting Manual. The last choice within this parameter is Commitment Detail. The Commitment Detail section will display detailed projections based on the Expenditure Type Hierarchy section choice made earlier and by month. The number format functionality is not used here at Yale. The report automatically includes cents and it cannot be changed. The last parameter is the output file name, which is up to you, the user. The system populates this field with your NetID and a system-generated report number. It is suggested that you change this to something that describes the report better, so you'll be able to refer to it. The month and last two digits of fiscal year are automatically placed at the end of the name in the AH Reports Output Collections file. This feature does not exist on other reports. Common naming conventions include COM for current open month and LCM for last closed month. After all of the parameters have been selected, we'll just go to the bottom right corner and click Run. Then we'll see a pop-up window telling us that the report is running in the background. Click OK. When you click OK, the tab will close and we'll be back in the Account Holder by PTAO folder. As we mentioned earlier, we'll wait a few minutes and refresh the screen to see when the Output Collections file for this report appears. Once it appears, we'll open it to display the TOC tab.